Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Today, I share the story of Donny Marshall. Donny's been a standout basketball player in high school, college, and the NBA. He was healthy, in shape, and yet doctors told him and his wife that they had about a 1% chance of getting pregnant. Donny and his wife decided to change to a plant-based diet, and here's Donny's transformative story.
It's awesome to be with you, man. I know we've talked before, during the basketball season, but to be here with you talking about stuff that's a little deeper than basketball is fun.
I appreciate it. Let's start, from the beginning. You grew up out in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
What were your eating habits growing up? Was it like a normal kid or what?
Yeah, it was. I always joke with people when they say, "How'd you get so big and strong?" And I told people, at least when I was in college, when I got to college, it was a steady diet of Fruity Pebbles and chocolate chip mint ice cream. That's a true story. My mom kept the house stocked with chocolate chip mint ice cream and Fruity Pebbles, and it was everything in between. You kind of forget because you're a kid, but growing up, I think, in all seriousness, my mother was, her roots they go back to Ireland. So, there were some old Irish dishes, but when she came, my grandmother, her mother came to the States, they lived in Arkansas, and that's actually where my mother was born. So a lot of Southern, if you can think of Irish dishes with a Southern twist, I didn't even think that was possible. So there were a lot of, ham hock, pig's feet, stuff like that, collard greens, all that good stuff, so it was, I think genetically, just we didn't really think about it. I was active. And, when you're younger and you're a kid, your mom and dad, your parents are just like, hey, just stay active. Don't sit around. And, it's different, obviously, nowadays for kids because so much is done through social media if they're a little older, but also video games, the iPads. Fred, we really, and I don't want to make myself sound too old, but we just didn't have that. It was go outside when that street light comes on, you get your butt in the house. And that was pretty much it. And dinner was ready. So, my mom never really put restrictions on us of don't eat this, don't eat that. We ate everything. And today I just can't imagine how I had any energy as a kid besides just kid energy to do the things I did, play soccer, run track, all those things growing up. Just amazing when you understand how much the food fuels you and the good and bad it can do to you based on what it is you're eating.
Right. Now, I remember we've chatted before, and you don't drink. You never have. You've always...
Yeah. 46 years sober. I tell people I've never had a sip. Actually, we the other night we had our the 40th anniversary of the Big East was a couple of days ago to the day that Dave Gavitt created the Big East. So we had a gala in Providence, and we went out. Some of the coaches, Ed Cooley, Bill Raftery, the guys who are in our basketball world, ADs from 5 or 6 of the Big East schools, and the wine's going around the table, and even people from Fox were there. And when it hit me, you could almost hear the tires screeching. And I tried to gently say, yeah, I don't drink. And automatically, unlike telling people that you're vegan, when I've told people I'm vegan, they're like, oh, weirdo. When I tell people I don't drink, it's like, oh, he must have had a drinking problem, and he's now he's beating it, and he's sober now, and da-da-da. So I have to kind of go all the way back to like, come on. And then they don't believe you. It's just unbelievable that someone, at 45, 46 years old just says, obviously in athletics and, playing college basketball in the NBA, they just assume you've been to parties and you drink. But yeah, I wasn't raised around it. I had an older brother who I can remember back to when I was about 9 or 10, which him telling me, you're going to be something special, in this family. You're going to be the first person to do something really special athletically, and you don't need this stuff. And simultaneously, I was the same size as him. I was about 6 feet tall when I was 10 or 11 years old, and that's how tall my brother. He stopped. I kept going.
Wow.
But he was always very protective of me, and yeah, so never never had any drinks, but I learned to deal with, being the designated driver when I got older.
Right.
But it was never peer pressure to me, man. It was because I was always bigger than my friends, so no one would ever dare say, "Come on, try to test me or try to dare me to drink." And I had an older brother, and I also had an uncle, as my mom's family is pretty extensive, that was about 3 years older than my brother. And so I really basically had two big brothers that protected me and shielded me from all that stuff. And I should say that they probably drank enough for two of my lifetimes for me. So they experienced that for me.
Right. Now, that must take some kind of strength of character, though. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of pressure, even on, like when I was a kid, it was like all your buddies go out and you're drinking and you just like, no. I mean, just to be able to say that is, to me, is so amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess, when I think back, and I have an 18-year-old daughter, so, talking to her, promise tonight, talking to her about, the risks, the temptations, your friends doing it. And I think because she's seen and she's grown up understanding that Daddy never drank and had some success, I don't need to do that either. So as a kid, again, I was, when I was 10, I looked 15. When I was 15, I looked 25. And no kids, because my brother and uncle were very tough, and because of my size, no one ever dared to kind of try to say, "Hey, come on, take a drink. Oh, you're a wuss," or whatever. I never. And I think the other thing that helped me was my mom. Now, my mother raised my brother and I by herself since I was a year old, and my brother's about 5.5 years older. And we were very close knit. We really, and I should say, my brother actually helped. He did a lot of the raising my childhood too, because my mom worked a lot. She worked 4th job around Christmas. So just just being around him as a mentor and the way he led me and said, that stuff's not important, man. You could it was never difficult when people heard, that, oh, Donny Marshall doesn't drink. They basically, the connection for that was, oh, he's an athlete. He's a captain of a team. He's the this. And then for me, at one point in high school, it got to the level of, I need to lead by example. And I think that was about my sophomore, junior year. And I took that the rest of my life. And now as a parent, lead by example. I know as parents, we say, do as I do, not as I say, but I really believe you still, nowadays, especially with kids, you gotta be a great example, and not just tell them, but in the way you live your life.
Right. So when did you change to a plant-based diet?
Oh gosh, Fred. So I'm going on 2019. So October will be 6 years. Yeah, but just about 6 years. And I had always been aware of my body. Once I got to college, high school, I ate everything and I just ran it off. But once I got to college, and I think in all honesty, a part of diet changes when you get to college is, and again, remember, I didn't drink, so there was never, okay, I'm hungry the next day, or I'm hungover, or I'm going to drink tonight, so I'm going to eat a lot so I don't get drunk. I learned that through a lot of my friends and my dorm mates, not a lot of my teammates in college. They were pretty, at University of Connecticut, at that level, guys understand what they're there to do. So I won't say that guys didn't drink, but for the most part, our guys were aware of their bodies and trying to perform and to win. And that's how you win, was you start with your body. So I think really, in all honesty, not being able to afford pizzas and hamburgers and all that stuff, it was team meal. You took something from the training table back to your dorm room. So that's when I really started to see my body change, when it was no snacks at night, no Fruity Pebbles in the morning,
right.
And it was things like that really started to make me understand how my body functioned and how I functioned if I ate the right way. So when I played in the NBA, I loved to gain weight and I ate much better. I loved filet mignon, though, I got to be honest. Mm-hmm. And all those type of things. But there was a point at about, I'd say halfway now. I'm going into my 18th year in broadcasting, and I would say about year 9 or 10, I was doing some stuff. I was calling games for the Boston Celtics, doing studio stuff, and we'd get on the airplane late at night. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce would buy P.F. Chang's and bring it on the plane. We're coming from Portland, and now it's 2:00 in the morning, and you're eating P.F. Chang's, you name it, whatever it was. And now, so I start to feel, okay, I'm heavy. I'm just so heavy. So I started to shock my body. So I did. I watched a couple of shows. There's one I don't recall the exact. I think it's called Sick, Fat, and Almost Dead, something like that. And you'll be able to find it online. It was about this guy who went across the country, and it was a story about him juicing. He met all these wonderful people, a truck driver, a teacher, all these magnificent people who wanted to change their bodies so they would juice, and he was teaching them how to juice. One guy couldn't fit on an MRI to see what was going on in his body because he was too big.
Wow.
So by the end of it, he went from LA to New York, and in between he would stop. He'd open up the back of his back trunk and tell people, juicing is important. So after seeing that, it really changed me. And I did the 30-day, and then I got to 60-day juice. And then it was no food, just juicing everything and smoothies. And I loved it. My body got down. After one season when I think it was 2008, the Celtics won the World Championship.
Yeah.
We were coming from LA. I was 255 pounds, Fred. When I got home the next day, I'm like,
wow.
That was probably but no one else could tell, but I could feel it.
Right.
And I'm just like, this is not going to work. That's when I did the juice. And then I just to change my body, to shock it. I think it was that athlete in me always trying to challenge myself. And, when you get older, it gets tougher to find things to challenge yourself after you've been a professional athlete. And it was me versus my body and doing the right thing. And the juicing started. And then I would go every other month. I'd go 30 days on, 30 days off. And as I was going the 30 days on the juice, I'd come off and I'd do 30 days off the juice. I started to think about what I was eating and didn't just say I'm eating everything because the last 30 days I didn't eat anything. Those 30 days that I was on the juice and the smoothies, I was putting great things into my body and I could feel it. I was sleeping better. And I'm a Cancer man. My birthday's in July. We're moody. We are very moody people. And for all the Cancers out there listening, they know what I'm talking about. We love our moms. We're mama's boys, or if you're a woman, you love your mom. But we're also very moody. My moods were much better. And then I said, okay, I'm not going to – it's like going to the gym, Fred, and saying, I just worked my tail off for 2 hours. Now I'm going to go eat everything. You cancel it out. If I went 30 days on juice only and then the next 30 days completely just ate like my buddies always say, ate like I was going to the electric chair.
Right. You
basically cancel out everything you just did those 30 days previous. So that made me start to think about it. And then when we went plant-based, my wife and I, we were, and I think it's important, everyone's like, oh, it's private, you don't have, but I think it's important for people to know we were having trouble having kids. So my guys were healthy, if you will. My wife, everything was working the right way, and it didn't sync up. So we did, for our second child, we went IVF. It was great. The doctor said, listen, if you don't do this, you got, less than a 1% chance of getting pregnant. So
how did that make you feel when he told you that?
I had no control. And that was that to an athlete, to a former athlete, to basically say your body is not functioning the way you want it to. That's almost like being, it's almost not being a guy who runs, who can't run anymore. No, you can't do that. You have less than 1% chance of running from here to there, or from jumping this high, and I just felt like I did not have control of my body, and I didn't know why. I mean, you feel so helpless. And a lot of people say, listen, it happens for a lot of different reasons. So, Fred, my wife and I said, we need to change something. And we were in Portland, Oregon, and we saw a lot of places out there, that were plant-based. And we just we were like, let's try it. The food was wonderful. I mean, we went to multiple places there. It was fascinating how good the food actually was. And, everyone here is vegan and they hear, plant-based, like, flavorless. It's just not true. It's a myth. Those people who think that are the people who have not tried it, who have not opened their mind to it. So, and nowadays, man, everything is awesome. TV is awesome, movies are awesome, technology is awesome, and food is incredible. So there's always alternatives. And next thing you know, Fred, we went plant-based, and so I would say 8 months later, I'm trying to think. So my little guy, he's 11 months, and so it was about a year later we conceived, and naturally, because we believe because we didn't have the hormones in our body that we had with eating meat. And I went back to the doctor and said, hey, it was almost like I was in college again. Jim Calhoun says, you can't make this shot, or he would challenge me. So when the doctor had told us that you can't get pregnant, I could not wait to go back to see that guy and say, we're pregnant.
Right.
And we did it on our own. And this is why I believe, and you can tell me whatever you want, but I believe because we changed our diets to plant-based, that is the number one reason, because we didn't change anything else, Fred. I was working out the same. My wife was doing her same workout. Nothing really changed except we went plant-based. And what we say in our house is nothing with eyes. We don't eat anything with eyes. Anything
right.
that comes from anything that has eyes, we don't touch it. And now we have I got my first boy, my little Donovan. He's 11. He'll be 1 next month. And that to me was proof enough that I'm not just going to do this for myself. I'm doing it for my kids, my family, and I could. When you hear you can't get pregnant, and then you change to that diet, and you get pregnant, it's like it's life altering, because you realize you did have control of how you feel, not only how you feel, but what's going on in your body. Even though you can't see it, you do have control of that through what you eat.
Right. So there wasn't any documentaries or anything that gave you the ideas. I know for me, it was like this one guy who was like, I don't know, posting a lot of stuff and saying, "Oh, everybody should go plant-based or whatever." Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of the trigger for me. You guys just figured it out on your own, or?
Well, we read, and then and one of my dearest friends, he loved to do, and he's Ray Allen. He's a Hall of Famer. He's my brother. We played college ball together. He tried paleo. He did all these other diets, and when he talked about that, we were talking about things that you could watch and read. And I told him about Forks Over Knives. I met the author of the first Forks Over Knives that I read at a golf tournament. Read that, and then we saw What the Health. That probably was the most, because all these documentaries that come out, you got to sift kind of through it. Are they telling you? I mean, they have a lot of messages. One is, which I think should be the first, is change the way you eat. If you go to plant-based, you're going to live longer, you're going to be healthier, and you're going to probably delete some of those ailments that you have: high blood pressure, risk of heart disease, some cancers. It's just, it's scientific. It really is scientifically proven if you talk to doctors who have experienced that. But also, they talk about how there's so much money that the FDA, they push this food because the government is backing it, and all these companies are giving so much money to the government. And then you start to get into all these conspiracy theories. I just shed all that, and I said, you know what? I'm going to take the one thing out of these documentaries, What the Health, and that is that it's going to help me live longer. Maybe not forever, but live longer and live a healthier life. That Food Inc. was the other one that I thought was, the thing that I said, it's just not right what they're doing to animals, and the size of chickens from 1975 to 2015, they've quadrupled in size. There's a reason for that. There's GMOs, and there's all this stuff they're putting into these animals. And you know what? When we eat those animals that have those things in them, we have them now in our bodies, and I believe that affects you in a negative way, at least my body.
Right. Now, when you got back to that doctor, and you told him, what do you have to say about that?
And I have three very close friends that are doctors, and my family practitioner, we golf together. I've actually known him since I was a rookie in Cleveland. He grew up in Cleveland and then ended up going to medical school, but he was a huge Cleveland Cavaliers fan my first couple of years I was in Cleveland. So he knew me before I knew him. And now he lives in Connecticut. He is our family doctor. And I told him before and after what was going on. He said, you know what, Donnie, I've had 3 other patients, or my 4th, that has said one patient had stage 4, and I can't remember exactly which cancer it was. They had some cancerous cells on his legs and his arms, almost a lot like we saw in one of those documentaries. A guy had these cancerous cells, and they were lumps. And he said that patient also went plant-based, and those things went away. He had a patient that had very high blood pressure, cholesterol. It was everything. He was a 35-year-old guy, but his body was almost like he was like a 60-year-old guy who didn't take care of his body. And he went plant-based. All those numbers went back to what his age was, which is about 35 or 36. So I told my guy, I said, listen, this is what happened. He's like, I believe it. So when I told the doctor who told us that we couldn't get pregnant, I said, this is why I believe why. And he asked so many questions about and he wasn't quite convinced, Fred. He was more thinking, okay, it had to be something else. And
right.
I don't know how many times I told him the only thing we changed was we went from eating meat and dairy to plant-based. We also went from, we don't believe, we're not, I don't think we're crazy, but most people who are crazy don't think they're crazy, so maybe I am a little. But we don't really eat things in boxes. So we do farm, we do CSAs, so you go to the farm, you pick all your vegetables and all your stuff like that. We don't really do a lot, even for our young ones, we don't do a lot of stuff in boxes. And I know what people are thinking, oh, it's expensive. It really isn't. Our CSA, Fred, is $500 a year. And I can't tell you, we probably would spend that in you go to Whole Foods, you'll spend that in one trip.
Right.
On vegetables and fruits. So the doctor he was like, nothing else changed. I said, no. So I felt proud that I made a guy who, doctors, you think your doctor knows everything about your body and health. I thought I convinced him and taught him something that actually may change his life, but maybe some of his other patients. And I know doctors can't go around saying, change your diet as extreme as I did, but you got to think they have to be you hope that they're telling some of their patients, listen, cut back on this, cut back on that. And so I felt proud about that. And obviously it was like I hit the lottery. We were pregnant and we were having our first boy.
Right. So what do you think was like the hardest part to overcome for you when you went plant-based?
The most difficult thing, I think, was travel. Traveling, when you're home, you can make a lot of your own meals and you find 1 or 2 nice plant-based restaurants that they know you, they know what you like. But it's hard to get on the road. And, we do, my wife is Portuguese and Italian, so we do a Sunday sauce every Sunday. That's how she was raised. That's how we're raising our kids, Sunday sauce. But instead of the meatballs, we have veggie balls. Instead of the pasta, we do spaghetti squash. Mm-hmm. So that's hard to find on the road, So that was the hardest thing. And I got to be honest, Fred. Again, from the first 2 years that I went plant-based to the last 2, there's been like a complete 180 shift in how many places you can find, not just one in one city, but 2 or 3 that are plant-based, and how many different things on a menu you can find in restaurants that normally just did pasta and meat and all that, how you can find now, how they say, okay, vegetarian, they put the V next to it, they put the VG if it's vegan. I mean, so many places now when I travel. But in the beginning, that was the hardest part, to find vegan places and to stay with it. And I got to be honest, the one difference for me was I wanted something that tasted like chicken. I wanted something in the beginning that tasted like steak. Now, I got to be honest, people are talking about Impossible Burger. I get it. But if it tastes like meat, if it tastes like chicken, I can't eat it, Fred. I can't taste that meat flavor. I have to taste the plant. And I know it's still plant-based going to my body, but now to me, it's evolved into, now my taste buds are like, okay, this tastes like meat. We can't do this. Even though it's not meat, I'm at that point now, and obviously I can't smell it and be turned on by it. When I used to smell steak and hamburgers, like, oh my gosh, smell that. And I got to be honest, Fred, for us, it was almost like I don't know what you call it, the Trinity. It was three things for my wife and I. Was the ethical part of how we eat. We love animals.
Right.
Now I know I'm not attached to a cow from Montana or a pig from, Georgia, but to me, it's the ethical part. The other one was health, taking care of our bodies and being able to extend our life if we can. And then the last one I think for us was environment. What are we eating? How is this affecting the environment? And, listen, one of us can't change the way the world is. But if one of us decides not to, that can affect how we don't get anywhere after that. So, everyone kind of has to buy into it. And listen, I have friends who still eat meat and they do that, but I also have a lot of friends who have said, and I don't pressure them. I also have a lot of friends who said, listen, I went 2 weeks and I cut out, steak. I cut out chicken. I cut out this. And I was so proud of them. I think that's what we want, right? We want our friends and our family around us to at least have the information. Right? That's the thing I didn't have, Fred. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't know. And I always say, and my Coach Calhoun, Jim Calhoun, my college coach, used to always say, if you don't know, you don't know. And even though it sounds obvious, he's right. If we don't know what's good for our bodies, we don't know. So to find out, it was life altering for me. And the funniest thing, I think people ask me, are you still vegan? I'm like, I gotta be honest, man. That's like asking me, am I still mixed race? It's what I am. Yeah. I'm black and white. Are you still tall? To me, it's not this is who I am. It's a part of my fabric now, being plant-based and taking pride in that.
Right. So you kind of stay away from the processed food and just go pretty much plants full on all the time.
Yeah. There are challenges. I think we loved bread and we loved all those things, but we don't, there's nothing. I think it's interesting that when people talk about plant-based and then processed and this and that, we're having this conversation with my daughter's elementary school now, how these new guidelines have come out for the diets. And obviously, whether you like him or you hate him, our president hasn't helped when he has the meals at the White House that are fast food. And, I never like to denigrate or talk bad about fast food restaurants or really anything, because they're making money. Whatever they're doing. I can't be the one to criticize that, but I can say that the way our president influences, hey, they're coming to why we're having hamburgers. It's really, it influences a lot of people who don't have the knowledge, Fred. And these school systems now are telling their healthy meals are, there's no carrot, there's no vegetables, it's yogurt, it's the hamburger, it's the hot dogs, it's the, and then for a healthy side, we can go cottage cheese. And I'm like, wait a second. It's just not true. So but our 6-year-old, we make her lunch every day. And the other day I was so proud of her, and we've done this before, but she makes now her own lunch. We kind of supervise, but we let her go in there. We put the camera on so we can videotape, because she's almost like she wants to be on YouTube, and she's looking at the phone. She's like, hi guys, I'm making my lunch. 6 years old, Fred. I swear to you. Makes her lunch. There's carrots there. So we do, a non-dairy cheese. She puts some crackers in there. She does her blackberries and her raspberries. We do an almond milk yogurt for her with crunchies. She likes the crunchies in there, and she's making all these things that we've kind of shown her, but not said you have to eat this. She's making her own lunch now, and now she goes to school, and these other kids are having hamburgers and hot dogs, and Lord knows what's in those processed meats. But I'm just, again, it's not do as I do. It's not just do as I say, but if you're doing the right thing, the kids will see you, and they're going to do what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you had one word to describe how you felt before and now how you feel after you've gone plant-based, well, what would your word be?
One word now. I would say one word before, lifeless. There were days where I was just dragging, You get up, you have you had a pasta the night before, you had a filet mignon. It's like bread with the pasta. It's like makes no sense. You're eating the carbs. Why do you need both? But honestly, I felt lifeless, no energy. Now I feel just rejuvenated, I guess would be the word now. Just because every day I wake up and I'm not one of those people. I've never been sick because of plant-based. I have allergies and I have some things, but my body inside, as far as being, obviously I'm mixed race. I'm 50%, white. I'm 50% black. But for black males, heart disease, obviously your prostate, but heart disease, and those are things that my father died from heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the leading killers of black males. And I'm not sure which side my body's leaning to, the Irish side or the Ivory Coast side. But I know if I have control of it and I can do something more about it, then I'm going to continue to do that. So I really feel rejuvenated now. I feel like I wake up, and even those times, Fred, honestly, if I would be sick 2 weeks before.
Yep.
And even though I still might have a little cold, it lasts 2 days, 3 days. And I don't medicate. I'm not a medication guy. I think, okay, more vitamin C, more, more. And there's so many great drinks too. And I learned that through my juicing, that there's so many great nutrients and proteins and vitamins in these drinks. And that's what I'll do. I'll just grab a couple of, and if you think about it, those drinks are, $4 or $5. But if you sit down and have breakfast, it's $10, $12, $15.
Right.
I just had breakfast and probably more in that 8-10 ounce drink than I could have had sitting down for 45 minutes having a huge breakfast. And now I can travel and feel much better, so my colds are much shorter as well. The sick time, the downtime is much shorter without question.
Right. Now, like I know you do a lot of community service. What do you got going as far as I know you're like on board of trustees and board of directors and things like that. What else you got going?
So now what's happening is I am on, which I had a fantastic trip, Morocco. I think you and I kind of went back and forth off the air, if you will, and kind of shared our experiences. But my wife and I went to Morocco, and it was kind of twofold. We were invited by the Prince of Morocco, but we were also there it was a golf tournament, and I also did a basketball clinic in a town called Ifran, which is about 2.5 hours or so. I would say southeast of Rabat is where we were staying. But what I'm getting at is the reason we did that. The Prince of Morocco came to Connecticut, and he loves golf. Grew up playing golf with his father, with the king. And kids in Morocco played golf for free. He came to Connecticut, played in our Travelers Tournament here, our PGA event we have here at the TPC River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut. He won the Pro-Am, and he's just absolutely in love with the game. So we have a beautiful learning center for the first tee of Connecticut, and we brought him here. Long story short, he wanted to bring the first tee to Morocco. So that trip actually, it was a golf trip, but it was also us trying to push bringing. And what the first tee is, for people who don't know, is it's an organization that exposes kids to the game of golf. The kids that normally would not have an opportunity to be around golf. I got involved in 1997. I was with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I came home. The mayor of Hartford asked me if I would go to City Hall with him. There's this thing he really believes in. It's about bringing golf for our youth to Connecticut. That was 1997. They told us no thanks. Our golf courses are for adults, so on and so forth. About 1.5 years later, my math could be 2 years, but Tiger Woods got involved. First tee, golf for youth, and the PGA got on board, and then it just took off. So I've been on the board of directors for the first tee of Connecticut for, I would say, well, actually before its inception, really before there was a board. I've been a part of it for 20 years, and this is our 20th year. 1999 was the first year. And then, so probably 16, 15 years I've been on the board. So that trip was a part of trying to bring first tee to Morocco. And then when we were there, the Prince announced that, yes, we're going to bring the first tee to Morocco and have, just expose our youth to the same golf that they have in the United States. So I'm big I'm doing that heavy right now, and just trying to promote that and the game of golf to kids. I speak at some basketball camps locally, which I love, being around the kids and seeing how they grow. I've been at one in one town here. I used to run camps there probably started 10 years ago. So I've seen these kids kind of grow up and turn into great, men and women, or young adults, if you will. And then I'm the spokesperson for anti-bullying for the state of Connecticut. As a kid, I was very tall and lanky and long, and I was bullied when I was younger. Before I started to grow, when you're mixed race, even though growing up in Seattle, it's very gentrified. There's still bullying, and my mom's blonde hair, blue eyes, beautiful, and kids would, they'd call you bad names, when it came to your race. What are you? On both sides of the line. I was tall, skinny. Didn't like showing my legs. I really got bullied pretty severely when I was a kid. So
can you give me an example of that?
Yeah. So I would go. So I started. I was probably fourth or fifth grade, and I was in class, and my mom we were at a new school. We lived right across the street from the elementary school. This is a suburb of Seattle. And I was in class, and my mom had come for the first time, probably 3 or 4 weeks into school. And so all the kids, they thought I was black. They said, they think that because of what they see, that's what you are.
Right.
And so my mom comes, blonde hair, blue eyes. And now next thing you know, one kid says, oh, he's black too. And now they start calling me Zebra. Oh. Zebra, Oreo cookie. And the thing that made me, I think, that hurt the most was my fourth grade teacher. He was laughing when kids were saying, almost kind of like snickering when kids were calling me Zebra and Oreo, like laughing, and at the same time telling them to stop, but laughing.
Right.
And I'm just, you're 9, 10 years old, and they're like, wow. So I went home. I asked my mom, am I white? Am I black? What am I? And she said, no one can tell you who you are. You have to decide who you want to be. And I'm not going to tell you who you are or what you should be. You have to figure that out for yourself. And I'm 10 years old.
Right.
This is kind of the relationship we had, single mom, she's raising her boy. And my brother was 15 or 16 at the time. So he helped as well. He was like, who are they? Point them out to me. I'll go find them. So I had the confidence of, okay, I had a bodyguard. And there were some fights here and there. And then, you know what? I hit a real growth spurt. And once I hit that growth spurt, and the other example I would say that I tell most of the kids when I'm at camp and I'm doing the anti-bullying, as a kid playing soccer, I played soccer since I was 6 years old. I wanted to play professional soccer. That the basketball got in the way, but I'm still passionate about soccer. And I would wear sweatpants under my shorts for practices and games because I was so tall. I mean, at sixth grade, I was probably 6'1". I'm taller. When I was in the fourth grade, Fred, I was taller than my fourth grade teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I was probably 5'8".
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Fourth grade. I mean, so now you're an anomaly, but you're a freak,
right,
because you're bigger than the teacher and you're, 9, 10 years old. And so, I would wear sweatpants under my shorts, and because people would, ostrich legs, just all the really bad names, and I would, you get tripped, and then you fought by the older kids, they trip you, and then they say, oh, look at Bambi, can't get up, things like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to fight so bad, and my mom said, listen, if someone hits you, you hit them back, but if they're words, they're just words. And if you respond to those words, they're going to keep using those words. If you ignore it and you try to be bigger than that, they'll give up. They'll eventually give up. And that's what happened. But I think not only did I ignore it and they gave up, but I think because I got bigger, and now they started to think, maybe we shouldn't be messing with him. And then I became this terrific athlete. I was fast. I was bigger than everybody. Everyone wanted me on their team. And through that, Fred, I got to be honest, I instead of saying I can't stand people and found a hatred, I at some point became this guy who was a conduit, who was like the Samoan kids, the white kids, the black kids. Let's do this together. Let's be on a team. Let's bring everybody together. And I think a lot of feeling on an island by myself made me become the glue of my neighborhood and my school as I got into 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And, it's funny because playing for the New Jersey Nets, we went to 2 NBA finals my last 2 years in the league, and 01 to 03. And Jason Kidd and the coaches, everyone had kind of a nickname, and mine was the glue. And I hadn't told anybody. I had learned that from a young age after I overcame the bullying, and just to bring people together. We had Kenyon Martin, who was from the ghetto in Dallas, and we had Tom McCullough, who was from the middle of nowhere in Canada. And we're out one night, and Todd looks at Kenyon Martin, and he says, Kenyon, you know what? If Donnie wasn't here, I would never I would never be out with you at a movie or dinner. And Kenyon, in his eloquent way, and he used some profanity, a lot of profanity, says, I wouldn't be out there with you either. So, which was the message. So it stayed with me. Instead of using the bullying as something that's a negative, I grew from it, and I learned to I embraced it. I have, instead of being white or black, I always say I have the best of both worlds.
Right.
I never have to change. I never have to change who I am, man. I mean, think about it. After a while, I started to embrace it. People like Zebra, I'm like, yeah, they're both white and black. That's what I am. Okay. Whatever you say, it's not going to affect me anymore. So I use that with the kids and tell them, listen, I don't care what you've gone through. I mean, I care what you've gone through, but I've been through everything you've been through. I've been poor. I've had alcoholism in my family. I've raised by a single parent. I've had death around me. Whatever you've gone through, I've gone through as well. I tell the kids, and if I'm standing in front of you as a guy who you see on television, who's played at the highest level, every level in basketball, you can do special things too. And that's usually my message to the kids when I talk about bullying and trying to overcome it. But I did have people to talk to, my brother, my mom. I had those, and a lot of kids nowadays, when it comes to bullying, they just they don't feel like they have those people they can talk to. I tell you, you'd be so surprised at how many counselors and teachers will listen to you when it comes to things like that, and uncles and grandparents, next door neighbors, that if you say, hey, I'm getting bullied, nowadays, people will listen and they will help you. And that's kind of how I got through it. Obviously my size helped. Every kid's not going to be 6'2" in the 7th grade, or
right. Yeah.
Every kid has a voice, and there are always people there. I don't care where you're from, where you grew up. There are always people there that will help you, but you have to verbalize that. And that's what helped me as well as being big, but talking about it and asking for help and saying, why is this happening? And if I'm here and I've had some success, I think any kid can, and every kid can.
Right. That's just great advice, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for doing this, Donny. I really appreciate it, man. Yeah,
Fred. I mean, we've been together in a lot of games, and when we're together, whether it's a single game or it's a Big East tournament, I think we were in sync, and we kind of clicked, because who I am with you on the phone right now is who I am at home. It's who I am when I'm on the air. I want people to be together and understand each other, accept each other, try to understand each other. And that we have all those camera guys working back there. You see, Fred, firsthand how we all laugh and get along and enjoy what we do and enjoy this life, man. You got one of them. And if it's through your diet, if it's through your relationships, whatever it is, man, you got to make the best of this one life that we have. Seriously, got to find a way, man. So I appreciate being on with you, and you let me drone on, and I can't wait to hear more of your podcast, man, and sometime down the line be a part of it again. I appreciate you asking me and inviting me to be on.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.